Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Carolina Weather Authority meteorologist Joshua Nagelberg. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend, and let's talk about the tropics here. Go ahead and, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on more videos that we have coming your way. All right, so let's talk about what's gone on so far this record season. We've had 28 named storms. 12 of them have made it to hurricane intensity. By the way, in the average season, we see 12 named storms, period. And the fact that we've had 12 hurricanes is pretty exceptional. 5 of them have made it to major hurricane, including Eta, which is the one I'm going to spend the most time to talk about. It is very possible here, though, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we probably will get into the 30s in named storms, Theta and Iota, and that's based on what is still going to be favorable conditions for the Caribbean gyre to get going here in the southwestern Caribbean Sea, as well as warm waters over the Atlantic Ocean, especially closer to Florida, over the Caribbean, and over the southwest Atlantic. So we are not done yet, believe it or not. Everybody's asked me, are we going to have anything more after Eta? And my answer is most likely yes. We've had some videos out here last month that said we probably have 3 named storms in November. Well, Eta's been the first. Theta and Iota are likely to follow in what's been a record season. Why not? I mean, we're going strong here in 2020. All right, so let's talk about Eta first. That is the swath I have in red, and there's still going to be some uncertainty in how this eventually plays out later this week and maybe even over the weekend coming up. Right now, we're seeing Eta coming close to the Florida Keys, producing some very heavy rain in South Florida. We're going to see amounts of 12 to 18 inches. Some of the northwestern Bahamas could see a lot of that heavy rain. Cuba's still getting some rain, especially the western part. We're getting a bit of a break in Jamaica, but it's been a very wet month so far. Actually, October was wet and November not helping. And we've seen just record amounts of rain over parts of Honduras and Nicaragua and Guatemala. Major flooding still ongoing in many of the towns there, especially up against the mountains. So very, very much a catastrophe in Central America. What I will say is that the ingredients are there for this thing to strengthen some more to a point. But I don't think we're going to see an unprecedented major hurricane in the Gulf. It looked like there was some potential that it could strengthen beyond Category 1. I think the window is starting to close a bit on that occurring, and the reason why is that we've got a lot of dry air on the western side of the system and some wind shear to talk about as well. But nonetheless, it's not going to make it any drier in South Florida. If you're watching from Miami or Fort Lauderdale this evening, you know that it's been a miserable day, and yes, the storm is going to move farther out into the Gulf, into a spot where it could strengthen, but we still have quite a bit of moisture flowing in on the eastern side of the system. The other thing I will say, too, is that Tampa Bay, there's a chance this could come and hit you as a strong tropical storm, but there's also a chance here in the northern and northeastern Gulf that the system could weaken or even get sheared apart if it slows down. By the time we get later into the week, Thursday, Friday on, we do see much less of a chance for the storm to strengthen. It should be weakening at that point, and that could be some saving grace. But nonetheless, we have an upper low that's going to be drawing this thing west and southwestward, and that is going to send a lot of moisture all the way into the southeast. So expect a very wet second half of the week. If you are interested in golf and you're watching the Masters late this week in Augusta, it could turn out to be a washout at least 1 or 2 of those days. And in the Carolinas, we have finally a break in the dry weather we've had coming. In fact, maybe some heavy rain. We'll also talk about maybe 2 new storms, but one that we have to keep an eye on in the western Caribbean during the 3rd week of November. And there's some models that show it trying to get up past Cuba or the Yucatan into the southern Gulf. That would probably be more of a problem for Florida than Texas if it even is one. But in Central America and Jamaica and Cuba, this could end up being yet another big-time rainmaker, which is just making things very miserable. It's been a very active end to the season, especially in the Caribbean islands and Central America, and we definitely could see more problems and even moisture coming up into the Bahamas and Florida out of that. But it's a little ways out, so lots can still change. So on our Facebook page, we also have a winter weather forecast that we put out for the Carolinas, and not looking like an extremely cold or snowy winter. We're in a La Nina phase that typically favors what should be a mild winter, which the last few years have been, but this one could be a drier winter. So you want to click on that and certainly get more details if you're in the Carolinas, and that could hold for the rest of the Southeast as well. So yeah, we've got that. And we're also talking about the warmth in the Carolinas. We'll soon be talking about the rain as well. All right, so let's look at Eta here, getting close to the middle keys of Florida. It's a tropical storm. Winds are 65 miles per hour. The storm came through the middle of Cuba this morning and now is making a hard left turn as it interacts with an upper low, which will actually draw it away from Florida for a few days, actually closer to northwest Cuba, where we have a tropical storm watch in effect. But if there are any hurricane conditions over land, I think they're over the lower keys of Florida late tonight, probably tomorrow, before this moves away. And there's going to be plenty of rain and gusty winds on the eastern side of the storm. So much of southern Florida could still have tropical storm conditions. We could also have some tropical storm wind affecting parts of the northwestern Bahamas, especially Andros Island and Grand Bahama. But I think that window is starting to shut a little bit here. If I do show you the radar, you can see this is the circulation, and yeah, it looks like there's a huge eye, but actually this has a lot of mid-level dry air coming into it, and that's kind of cleared out the eye. So it's not in a very favorable spot to strengthen, but nonetheless, we see extremely heavy bands of rain coming into Broward County, Florida, just north of Miami. So Fort Lauderdale, Plantation, Sunrise, Weston, all getting crushed with potential flooding tonight. We do have a flash flood warning that still goes out until about 11 o'clock. And these bands of heavy rain are stretching well into the Atlantic over the Gulf Stream, so expect to see more rain. Somebody in here is going to get over a foot of rain in probably a 2-day stretch, which is pretty crazy. The Keys are not getting a lot right now, except the upper Keys, as we start to see, I guess you want to call it the eye wall, stretching into parts of the upper Keys. But this is going to be moving kind of in a direction where the center's right here. These are the Keys down in here. It's going to come by and then make a turn as it interacts with an upper low. And here's Cuba. It's actually got a chance of getting kind of close to northwestern Cuba, west of Havana, before this comes back and tries to make a turn up towards the Big Bend of Florida, or parts of the Gulf Coast at least, north of the Tampa Bay area, we think. And there's a chance, too, it comes out in here and just kind of falls apart, gets sheared to bits by these westerly winds in here. So anyway, not going to get too cute with the radar, but we've got a lot more to talk about. This system's not going to just die off, even though it's November. So that's what we're looking at here. Look at the infrared. You can see that dry air getting into the middle of the system. That's generally not favorable for strengthening. A lot of dry air over the western and central Gulf, but we still have a tongue of moisture spreading up, and we will see this moisture moving into the Carolinas this week. Also, quite a bit of rain still spreading over parts of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico, as we have a cutoff low down in here, and that's drawing southwesterly moist flow in from the Western Caribbean into the Central Caribbean islands. We also have a system we're going to keep an eye on here. The Hurricane Center has at least an inkling of some potential development, now going to the medium phase, 40% in 5 days. It's not going to be a threat to any land, not even the Azores, but could get the name Theta. But then we have another area we're going to keep an eye on, and I did kind of tease you with that a little bit here. A 30% chance of development in the next 5 days. That puts us through Thursday evening. It's something we're going to have to watch in Jamaica as well as Central America once again. This should look familiar, those of you guys that tracked Eta. So we could get to Theta and Iota here in the next 6 or 7 days. It won't take a whole lot of Iota, if you know what I mean. So, all right. And yes, that is from kind of the tail end of this wave here. And you've got another wave coming in here, but more from the gyre that's going to continue to form here. Once we get Eta out of the way, we've got at least an opening for more development coming down the road. But it's going to be kind of slow to evolve, so we've got some time to watch. Here's a look at the satellite. You can see the center's almost kind of cleared out, all the intense convection well northeast of it. We do have tropical storm winds reaching 60, 70 miles per hour in the offshore waters here, affecting Miami Beach and parts of Broward County. So yeah, definitely not a night to be out on the boat for sure in the Miami area. Aircraft have been in the storm, and they've seen the pressures kind of held steady in the low 990, so it's not yet a hurricane. The models do show some gradual intensification over time. I did want to show you real quick, we've had, I think, maybe just 6 hurricanes in the Gulf after the 1st of November, and all of them have been in this area at some point, which is where we're expecting Eta to go here in the next 36 hours. Only one of them, I think, has hit Florida Panhandle, and the other one has hit South Florida. This was Kate, by the way, 1985. But yeah, we could be talking about maybe 2 hurricanes in the Gulf if this second system tries to find its way northward. And I do see at least an opening for that. Models are still struggling with how this thing interacts with the upper low. Generally a turn to the northeast, but there are a couple models that take it farther west, and it'll probably get killed off at that point. That's due to strong wind shear, which we can see here coming out of the northwest from the central Gulf. So that would favor weakening for sure. The intensity forecast isn't quite as bullish as it was yesterday. We still have some models going with Category 1 intensity in a couple of days, but by then it's away from Florida. And then by the time it tries to make a comeback towards land, it's already weakening At worst, probably a tropical storm at that point. So I guess some good news there, but it's not going to shut the rain off completely either. The models are, again, you've got a cutoff low, you've got a lot of solutions. I don't think Louisiana gets in on much of this. If something comes close to the coast, it could fall apart like Marco did. It will not be a Laura, it will not be a Delta or a Zeta, so that's some good news. In the Yucatan, do keep an eye out on this. So if it does try to loop around a couple times, there's still quite a bunch of warm water here. And I hate to say it, the Yucatan's just gotten pelted with storm after storm this fall, but I would not rule it out at this point, although it's looking more like it's going to come out into here and fade as it moves north and northeastward. So that's something to keep in mind. We'll show you the upper level pattern here with this upper level high right here over southern Mexico, another upper level high here over the southeastern Caribbean. In between, we've got a trough and a cutoff low in here, which is going to form and rotate the storm and kind of gyrate around from northeast to southwest. Big death ridge in the northeast. I think it was like 75 up in New York City today. Great day to leaf peep up there, but also a great day to just lay out in your bathing suit. A little bit crazy here, but no signs of this heat breaking, and that pattern certainly favors something coming underneath it, not just this week with Eta, but maybe down the road in here. And I do want to show you the European ensemble probability. This is Eta, but here is potentially another one, and this is by next weekend. So potential getting up to 50 or 60% of a depression forming and then tracking west-northwest, maybe again affecting Nicaragua, maybe again affecting Jamaica or even Honduras. So this is not what we want to see, but notice that general trend is to the west-northwest. Ensembles are showing you pretty good agreement that this Eta storm is going to come close to the northeast tip of Cuba and then turn north, where it could weaken some as it gets into cooler water. A couple solutions try to drift it back close to southern Louisiana, but by then it's kind of falling apart. The pressure's over 1,005. Here's our next system, though, that we're watching. By the way, this one out here could sneak up and be Theta, but we're not worried about it. This would be Iota. And here we go with several solutions showing a hurricane in the western Caribbean, north of Honduras, or close to Jamaica. In Cuba, you should be watching this. The Yucatan and Belize need to watch. And believe it or not, there's a couple solutions trying to get it up into the Gulf of Mexico. Too soon to say that for sure, but there's a couple of freaky solutions out there, and definitely not going to put a lot of weight into them just yet. But what I will do is show you the Canadian from earlier today, and shows here comes Eta falling apart as it comes towards the Big Bend of Florida on Friday, and the moisture comes up into the Carolinas out and ahead of it. And then here is our next potential storm. This one's got it going over western Jamaica early next week, and then coming through Cuba, and maybe a threat to Florida after that. The run after it, though, of course, there's not going to be a lot of consistency that far out. Does have a system getting buried in the southwestern Caribbean and hitting a very similar spot to where we saw Eta hit, but as a weaker system, probably a tropical storm or Category 1. And then that moves into Central America and causes some more potentially deadly flooding, which is not going to be good. The GFS from earlier today, this is what we have with Eta. It was obviously a lot stronger, going Category 2, and then approaching Tampa and then getting pushed right back out and falling apart due to wind shear. But here's the next system, and it's got it coming up towards the middle of Cuba, like we saw with that earlier Canadian run. And this looks like a very familiar track to what Eta took. The run after it is not showing that. I will show you here. We've got a weaker system with Eta, kind of getting jerked around here to the west and then falling apart in the northern Gulf, but a very intense storm with what could be Iota. This is a Category 3 hurricane sliding right between Jamaica and Honduras and going right into Belize and the Yucatan, and not a threat to the United States. And then the run right after it, of course, going to look different because we're almost 2 weeks out at this point. Does show a hurricane coming up into Jamaica and then coming close to Cuba and then stalling, and then gets caught in the northerly flow as a front's going to be pushing through the Carolinas. I do want to show you the rainfall forecast we have real fast before I let you go. And it looks very wet in South Florida, up to 12 inches. But look at all this coming up into Georgia and the Carolinas. This is kind of a separate piece of moisture coming up later this week that could bring some very heavy rain to places like Charlotte, Columbia, maybe Charleston, Raleigh, and Augusta, unfortunately, for the Masters. And that would be the second half of this upcoming week. And some of that comes from Eta, but most of it is from moisture getting in underneath the ridge and just sitting and raining over the same spot. So our dry spell comes to an end, and then history could repeat itself here when we get later into November. So that's something I want to make you guys aware of. But anyway, this is what we have. Definite storm here. Very likely we have another storm behind it with a lot of uncertainty as the steering currents are very uncertain this time of the year in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. All right, folks, have yourself a great upcoming week. I hope you stay safe and stay dry, and we'll talk soon. God bless.